guys, it's your girl from Philly. Welcome to another episode of Handcrafted Wines, where we make great wine from home the fun and easy way. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes.
If I'm stuck in a cloud, drifting away to get out.
In today's episode, we're going to be making strawberry banana wine. I have here cleaned and chopped 2 pounds of strawberries, 2 pounds of bananas, 2.5 cups of white sugar, and our usual players. We have pectic enzyme to break down the cell walls in our fruit. We have acid blend to provide the correct pH balance for our wine. We have our dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer. And finally, we have our tannin. Oh, can't forget our yeast. We also have Red Star Premier Classique yeast. Okay, let's get started. The first step is going to be to add our sugar to our carboy and add some hot water to dissolve it. I'm going to start with 2 cups of sugar, and I'll reserve a half cup just in case we need it. Yep, that was 2 cups exactly. And I'm going to add about 2 cups of hot water. Just enough to cover the sugar. And we're going to stir the sugar until it's dissolved. Now, typically when I make a 1 gallon batch of wine, I usually use 3 pounds of whichever fruit I'm using. But because we're using 2 pounds, we're using 2 different types of fruit, I decided to use 2 pounds each. And this is dissolving pretty good. I'm going to just lift it up just to check to make sure. So I still see some crystals floating in the bottom. I'm going to stir a little longer. Let's take a look again. Yes, so all the crystals have been dissolved now. I'm going to add our straining bag. This is a clean and sanitized straining bag. It used to be white, but one of the things about these nylon straining bags is they actually stain when you make wine. I believe I made a batch of peach sweet tea with this bag. I love the nylon straining bags though. Okay, now we're going to add our fruit, and I already chopped up our fruit and had it prepared in advance just to make it a little bit easier. And it doesn't matter what order it goes in. I'm starting with the bananas, but at some point it's going to end up mixing in the bowl anyway. Now, the reason I decided to make strawberry banana wine is because I do take requests, and my sweetheart asks that I make a wine with 2 of his favorite fruits. And of course, his favorite fruits are strawberry and banana. If we ever get smoothies or anything like that, an acai bowl or anything, he always orders strawberry banana. So this is for sweetheart. Now the strawberries, because they're fresh, I wash them and I rinse them in a solution of Campden Tablets and set them in the refrigerator overnight. in the water before I rinse them off again and dice them up. The bananas, because they were just in their peel, I just chopped the bananas up. One thing you have to be really careful of, especially with the berries, is berries tend to not just carry natural wild yeast on them, but they also tend to carry mold if you're not careful, and other bacteria. So you just want to make sure it's thoroughly clean before you start using your fresh fruit. Now, whenever you use frozen fruit, of course, the process of freezing your fruit, it completely sanitizes your fruit for you. It kills off any potential bacteria or yeast that might be living on the fruit. All right, we're almost done. We've gotten all our bananas in. Now we're adding the rest of our strawberries. Now I've made strawberry wine and I've made banana wine, and I've actually taken banana wine and strawberry wine and merged the two together, and the outcome was really good. But I'm interested in seeing what the two fruits fermenting together will taste like. We're almost done. And I'd like to see if we are going to need that last half cup of sugar. All right, so our straining bag is about half full. I think I'm going to add just a little hot water over the fruit, just for good measure. Not too much because I don't want the batch to be too hot. And I'm going to close our straining bag. And I'm only going to knot it one time because we don't have to worry about, well, strawberry has seeds, but they're going to fall to the bottom of this straining bag. We don't really have to worry about them floating up into the batch. There we go. That's good. Okay. And now I'm going to top this off with water before we add our usual players. Oop. Leaking water a little bit. I think my tap is not on very tightly. There we go. And I'm hoping this 4 pounds of fruit provides us with enough flavor. If not, in secondary, I may use some strawberry juice just to give it a little bit more flavor. But this should be okay. Now I'm stirring the sugar at the bottom again. Adding the cold water has kind of made it crystallize. I'm going to kind of show that to you. I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but the sugar has kind of ribboned up at the bottom. So I'm going to stir it again until it's completely dissolved. And I chose to chop the fruit up very finely, just to make it a little bit easier for the yeast to get to. But the pectin enzyme is going to help out with that too. Right now it's not producing a lot of color. It's pretty pale. So it's pretty light, but I assume it's going to take on a lot more color very soon as it begins to ferment. Okay. Now we're going to add our usual players. First, our pectic enzyme, which is going to break down the cell walls of our fruit to give our yeast more access to the sugars inside, as well as provide more of a more rounded fruit flavor. Next, we're going to use our acid blend. And even though strawberries do have acid in them, the acid blend is going to give it the right pH balance, which should be mildly acidic. Next is our dynamic duo, which is our pectic enzyme and our, no, I'm so wrong, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer. Get that in there. And I'm going to dissolve our tannin in a little bit of hot water, just so it dissolves completely. What are your favorite fruit combinations? If you were going to add two fruits together, what would they be? I think I would like maybe pineapple mango. That might be something I'll try. Okay, that dissolved completely. You see that? It dissolves a lot better with hot water, as long as I remember to leave enough water in the kettle. Okay. And our tannin has made our batch a lot darker, but that's going to change after fermentation. The tannin typically falls to the bottom along with the lees, and you retain your color. Okay. Now I'm going to test our specific gravity just to see what our potential alcohol by volume is. We're using the Red Star Premier Classique, which so far that's the only yeast I've used on this channel. And that typically has a potential alcohol by volume of 13 to 14%, perhaps 15%. But I might get daring and I might start using some of the higher alcohol potential yeast just to see what happens. I was going to say it's taken on a little bit more color, but I really think that is primarily the tannin that's giving it a little color right now. Once the pectic enzyme does its job, you'll see a lot more color from the strawberries leach into the batch. We're almost there. Just shy of goal. There we go, 250 milliliters. And let's check and see what our ABV is, or what our specific gravity is, which will tell us what our potential ABV is. Now looking at this, we're going to need this last half cup of sugar, and we may even need a little bit more. That's a very low reading. I didn't even bother with the numbers because I know it was really low. Now it's going to take a moment to stir this sugar in because the temperature of the batch is a lot cooler now. I think I'd like to try one day strawberry kiwi as well. That sounds delicious. I'll actually be making a kiwi wine very soon. And I was thinking about making it into a melomel, which is a honey wine that has fruit in it. So that might be my next step. A little bit more. The sugar's not completely dissolved. Now, I weighed the fruit on my kitchen scale before I began, but because I cut it so small, it looks like there's hardly any fruit in here. But that might be a good thing. That might be a good thing. Press the fruit a little bit, get some of the sugars out of the fruit. And I'm going to try one more time. I'm going for at least a 12% alcohol by volume. It would be a treat if it was more, but I'd be satisfied at 12%. We're almost there. I think 2 more and we should be there. Yep, that's right. 1 more. Now, let's have our fingers crossed. Hopefully, we've got a good number this time. If not, I'll add more sugar. Oh, okay. So we are just past the very first line. I don't know if the camera can pick that up in the red section. I go by the sections until I actually see the numbers. I know anything in red or gray is kind of where we want to be. Okay, so our reading is 1.90. Yeah, 1.90, which would bring us to an alcohol by volume. I think I'm skipping the percentages. There we go. 1.90 brings us to about a 12% ABV exactly. So as long as this ferments well, we should be at least at 12% alcohol by volume, which for a light wine like this, I would be happy with. I said it before, in the beginning, when you first start making wine, you get really excited about making very strong wine, but then you realize the flavor is not in the wine being extremely strong. It's actually in the wine being balanced, having a balance between the flavor, the bouquet, the tannin, the alcohol level. All of those things go into making your wine a good wine. Just making fire water is not really a good wine. Okay, now we're going to add our yeast. And I want to see how the yeast respond. Well, they're hydrating immediately. They're spreading out and hydrating right away. And I'm going to stir it a little bit just to incorporate it, to get some of this yeast off of the bag into the actual liquid. And strawberry wine is one of those summer wines that just goes easy with everything. It goes easy with salads, with, if you pack a picnic lunch and you're having lunch in the park, strawberry wine is excellent for that. So the yeast is responding really well. It's hydrating very quickly, and I already see some motion. I wonder if the camera's picking that up. Yeah, I already see some activity. So this should start fermenting within the next 24 hours. In the next 2 weeks, 15 days, we should have wine. We should be able to smell the alcohol in the wine. In 3 months, we'll do a taste test. We'll be racking it probably in 2 weeks, in 15 days. Some people like to rack after 7 days. I always rack the second week. I usually give it an additional week to make sure that it's completely finished its first stages of fermentation, but you don't have to. If you're comfortable with racking in the first week, if you see that your airlock is no longer making any motion and you don't see any activity of your yeast, if you want to rack in the first week, by all means, do what you feel is best with your wine. It's your wine. I like to wait until the second week to rack. Okay, and then in 6 months, we will have wine that's drinkable. This is currently winter time, so 6 months would be midsummer. And in about a year, it would be a great wine. So I'm going to add our lid with our drilled hole and grommet. This is the simplest fermentation vessel I've ever used. I typically use 5-gallon fermentation buckets, but since I started this channel, I've gotten really comfortable just making 1-gallon batches. And if I absolutely want to have a lot of a wine on hand, if I plan on having company or I'm going to gift somebody wine for an event, for instance, my cousin's getting married in May, so I'll be gifting her wine for her bridal party, and I'm making really nice labels. And she's given me permission to do it on the channel, so you guys will get a chance to see it too. All right, so we've added our star sand into our airlock, adding our lid on, and we're sealing this. Oh, it's a tight grommet. Give it a little bit of air. There we go. All right, so that's it for our 1-gallon batch of strawberry banana wine. It's going to be a light wine. I wasn't heavy on the fruit with this batch, and I didn't use a lot of extra ingredients. It's just basically strawberries, banana, and sugar. All right. That's it for this episode. I want to thank you again for joining me at Handcrafted Wines. Again, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, buy your equipment, make wine with me. If you're already making wine, leave me some comments. Let me know how your journey is going, and have a great day. Bye-bye.